you will find that the new point just ignores demonetization. And it is for the first time that after budget, continuously for 2 days, it has closed in green. This has happened for the first time. Normally, market understands the budget initially differently. Then, after a few hours, in a different manner when they go into the fine prints. But this time what has happened, whatever has been spoken and told, that they found place in the fine prints. And that's how second day is following the trend of first day. And that is that transparency is indicated in these numbers. And the last trend, which has no relation to our budget, but we must know because it is also a key economic indicator, the gold prices. And I take the basis of international gold prices. And this is how it remains unaffected with the interest rate, because this is, sometimes it is being said, government की वजह से gold rates का ये हो गया, वो हो गया. Government की वजह से gold rate का कुछ नहीं हो सकता. It would be governed and continue to be governed by international gold prices. And this is how you can see interest rate का चार्ट अलग चल रहा था, GDP का चार्ट अलग चल रहा था, डेफिसिट का चार्ट अलग चल रहा था, सेंसेक्स का चार्ट अलग चल रहा है, ये अपनी जगह चल रहा है. So this is completely independent of Indian economics. It goes by global economics. And now you have the figure of tax collection. Whosoever has heard finance minister's budget, advance tax में 34% का इजाफा हुआ है. Now you will find that this year, 17-18, the tax collection is likely to be increased substantially. थोड़ा पहले increase हो रहा था, इस बार ज़्यादा increase हो रहा है, and they will see the increase in this year on account of several factors which you all know. From informal to formal, there is a shift of the economy from informal to formal. And this I will not discuss in detail. Revenue graph, you all know that what different kind of tax revenues are contributing. It is very balanced wheel now in the Indian public revenue system. This is the share of taxes. Blue one is taxes and others are other revenues. And there, which kind of tax is being collected? All kind of taxes, whether it is corporate or service tax, they have almost more or less the equal kind of share. Skipping this and coming to the main agenda of the day, starting the budget provisions, particularly with direct taxes. First, explaining you the rates. I don't think this needs explanation. There is a comparison. You all have a booklet. I will not devote time on the slides where no explanation is required, and almost the replica of this you have in your hand in the form of a booklet. So there is a new slab of 5% which has been introduced, and they have just changed that slab from 10% to 5%. So what was in 10% earlier is now in 5%. All other things remain same except the surcharge. Now the surcharge has to be paid even by the persons who have gross income, who have total income exceeding 50 lakhs. Their surcharge would be 10%. Whosoever has income exceeding 1 crore, their surcharge would continue to be 15%. So you have two things added. First thing, second line from top. Second thing, second line from bottom. So these two changes are there in the table. Rest of all remains same. And the effect of this, what we must know, is that now the impact, what will be the total impact? Total impact would be on this 2.5 lakhs, 10% used to be 25,000. 5% is 12,500. Effect is 12,500. Partly that is offset by a rebate in section 87, which used to be 5,000 for persons up to 5 lakh rupees of income. Now it is 2,500 for persons up to 3,50,000 rupees of income. So up to 3,50,000 if somebody has the income, 2.5 lakh there is no tax. On 1 lakh there is 5%, it's 5,000 tax. Out of that 5,000 he'll get a rebate of 2,500. So just he'll pay the tax of just 2,500 on that 3,50,000. That's how the calculation will go. I know I explained the calculation here. Most of you are chartered accountants or company secretaries. You understand these very well. I'll come to the companies, and this is where the major reform is there. that from 30% the tax rate has been brought down to 25% for almost 90% companies of the country, where turnover is up to 50 crore. It is more than 90%. So their tax rate is 25% without a condition. Earlier there was a condition for even 29%. Now there is no condition for 25%. So what was promised by the finance minister in the earlier budget, first budget, that we will do it like this in gradual manner. So instead of doing it in gradual manner, what he says, I am covering more than 95-98% companies here, and they are covered by this new tax regime, 25%. Only remaining companies have to pay 30% tax rate. So 29% tax rate goes. Now you have either 30% for larger companies, 25% for smaller companies. So we have these two slabs. So what as surcharge is concerned, it remains same at the previous rates based on the level of income. If the income is above 1 crore, then surcharge is 7%, above 10 crore, surcharge is 12%, it remains as such. Rebate I have already explained. The only thing is, now the rebate would not be allowed to a person who has income above 3,50,000. Earlier it used to be allowed to all persons who have income up to 5 lakh. So that's another thing. Now comes other substantial provisions. This is something which might affect many of your clients. You all know individuals and HUFs are required to deduct tax at source only when they fall in tax audit limits. Only when they are having a higher turnover, they have TDS obligations. Otherwise, they don't have TDS obligations. Now, one new section has been added, 194IB. All of you know, 194I is for payment for deduction of TDS on rentals. 194IB is a new section, but on which kind of rentals? Rentals paid by individuals and HUFs to anyone. If it is above, rent amount is above 50,000 per month, then irrespective of the income of that person who is paying rent. And focus is because 99% population is not paying tax. So this TDS provision has been de-linked from turnover. They say you might not be paying tax, but if you are paying rent of more than 50,000 a month, then you have to deduct tax at source at the rate of 5% from the rental payment to landlord. However, they are very conscious that these are the persons who may not be required to maintain books even, but still they have TDS obligation. So they would need a TDS account number. Now every time, every month they would need a deduction. So what they say that we want a collection of tax. We don't want to put you in any kind of difficulty. So what they say, you would not require to have a 10 number. And secondly, what they say, you are not required to deduct every month. You just deduct from the last month of the year. So if you are paying rent every month, you have to deduct TDS only out of the rental of the last month. But suppose tenancy has come to an end in December or Jan or before the end of the year, then they say that would be considered to be the last month. Suppose tenancy has come to an end in November or December, then from that month you deduct entire TDS which you are required to deduct from the year. And suppose somebody has not furnished you PAN, because of which TDS rate increases. They say that your TDS cannot be more than last month's rent. At the most it can be last month's rent. So they have simplified these provisions. On the one hand, an obligation has been cast, on the other hand, it has been simplified. TCS scope has been, this has been on sale of motor vehicle. The scope has been, you all know, on sale of motor vehicle. TCS is there, tax collection at source is there. Now, there is an amendment to exclude the sale of motor vehicle by central government, state government, and all these constitutional authorities and all of them. If they sell it, then they are not required to collect the tax at source. They are exempted from compliance provisions. Now, so far as 194J is concerned, this is something, I'll take the advantage of presence of Sunil Mathuji here. This is something where they should have been little clear by making this amendment. What they say, all of you know 194J is about TDS on professionals' payments. Payment to professionals. And in this what they are saying is that if payment to professional is of what nature, if it has been made to somebody who is in the business of call center, on the one side the heading and the main section says profession. And inside it says if the profession includes business of call center, the judgments of courts are otherwise. Business is a broader word, profession is a narrower one. Here they say if it includes business of call center, then the tax rate would be 2%. They could have made a separate section, or they could have introduced this provision in some other section which has 2% rate, 194C or elsewhere. But businessmen should not be clubbed with professionals. I think all of you would agree that we should not be treated as part of businessmen. This would create some legal difficulty. Because in past what will happen because of this provision has come from 1st of June 2007. Now department